What happens when the wealthiest city in America, one of the most recognizable skylines on Earth, can't even keep its own people off the streets? By 2025, New York City spends a staggering $3.2 billion every year on homelessness programs. Yet, instead of shrinking, the crisis has exploded. In a single year, homelessness in New York surged by more than 53%, engulfing over 158,000 lives in 2024 alone. These aren't just statistics. They are families, workers, and children pushed into the shadows of a city that prides itself on opportunity. Tonight, we're uncovering the hidden story, one where billion-dollar budgets don't translate into safety, where luxury towers rise beside tent encampments, and where the future of Manhattan itself hangs in the balance. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear goes deeper than the headlines. At first glance, it sounds impossible. How does a city pour billions into solving homelessness every year and still fail this badly? The official count is jaw-dropping. In 2024, more than 158,000 people in New York State experienced homelessness. That's a 53.1% increase in just 12 months, nearly 4 times the national average. On any given night, 108,464 people huddle inside shelters across the city. To put that in perspective, that's like emptying out entire neighborhoods, Harlem or Flushing or the Upper East Side, and packing every resident into temporary shelters. And still, thousands remain outside. For all the billions allocated, for all the promises, the trend only goes one direction: up. And if billions can't change that, you have to wonder. Maybe the system isn't broken. Maybe it's working exactly as intended for someone. So where is all that money really going? And why does the crisis keep growing? Walk through Manhattan today, and the contradictions are impossible to miss. Glass towers worth $10,000 per square meter rise above sidewalks lined with makeshift tents. Inside, bankers sip champagne. Outside, delivery drivers who work 12-hour shifts bed down on the pavement. These aren't just the chronically unemployed. They're cooks, cleaners, couriers, the very people who keep the city's heart beating. They serve the wealthy in restaurants, maintain hotels, deliver packages to luxury condos, but can't afford even the cheapest rent. The city's official response has been predictable: sweep the tents, bulldoze the encampments, shuffle people from one block to another. A so-called safe haven model offers small shelters with on-site services, but in practice, the Bronx got just 80 beds, while more than 2,000 people sleep outside every night. A drop in the ocean. And for every encampment cleared, another pops up. Because when housing is this far out of reach, tents aren't just fabric. They're the last shield between a human being and the concrete. But the cracks go deeper. Because when entire neighborhoods start to hollow out, you realize it's not just the poor who suffer. It's the city itself. Once, Manhattan was synonymous with energy. Neon lights, crowded sidewalks, packed cafes at midnight. But now, some of its most iconic neighborhoods look eerily hollow. Take Times Square. Once flooded with 50 million tourists a year, it now struggles with growing unease. The glowing billboards are still there, but the crowds aren't what they used to be. Instead, unsheltered individuals cluster in doorways, tourists keep their distance, and locals avoid it after dark. Or Chinatown, home to nearly 100,000 people packed into just 2 square miles. Once a non-stop flow of markets and street food, evenings are now deserted, businesses shuttered, entire blocks falling silent. Soho, once a playground of artists and galleries, sees similar decline. The cost of living drives residents out, and what's left behind are empty storefronts and rising crime. The ghost town effect isn't just about atmosphere. It's about money. Families flee soaring rents. Tourists stop coming. Shops close. And with them go the jobs and community life that held these neighborhoods together. But ghost towns don't happen overnight. Something far deeper is fueling this collapse, and it all leads back to the roots of the crisis. At the heart of it all is housing, or, more accurately, the lack of it. As of January 2025, the median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan hovers at $4,200 per month. The average New Yorker earns $3,800 before taxes. Do the math. Working full-time, you still can't cover the cost of a single apartment. The gap between wages and housing costs has become an abyss. Then there's the post-pandemic eviction wave, with thousands forced out by landlords hiking rents. Add to that more than 200,000 asylum seekers arriving in the city since 2022, overwhelming already strained resources. Mental health and addiction play their roles too. About 30% of unsheltered people struggle with untreated disorders. And systemic inequality means communities of color bear the brunt, making up 90% of sheltered families. These aren't just statistics. They're warning signs. When the average full-time worker is one paycheck away from sleeping in a subway station, the system isn't just failing the poor, it's collapsing under everyone. And behind every number is a face. Meet Maria. She was a teacher in her 50s. After a round of budget cuts, she lost her job. Without savings, the rent notices stacked up. Now she walks Manhattan's sidewalks with everything she owns in a single bag, sharing lessons with strangers who pass her by. Her eyes still carry warmth, but her reality is survival. Then there's John, once a delivery driver. When his hours were cut, his income evaporated. Today, he camps near the markets of Chinatown, where the smell of hot dumplings fills the air, a cruel reminder of the life he no longer has. He keeps faded photographs of his family, now far away, tucked in his pocket. These aren't isolated stories. They're the rule, not the exception. Each face tells us that homelessness isn't about bad choices. It's about a city where the odds are stacked against you. And the price of survival in Manhattan? It's higher than most people can imagine. Survival in New York carries a cost, even for those still clinging to jobs. A single paycheck missed, a hospital bill, a car accident, a sudden layoff, and the slide begins. The middle class isn't safe. Families who once believed themselves stable now whisper about eviction notices, credit card debt, and fears of losing it all. In April 2025, average one-bedroom rent hit over $4,000, while income stalled around $3,200. Even stable employment doesn't shield people anymore. And when rent consumes every dollar, savings vanish. Future plans evaporate. Safety nets tear. This isn't just financial stress. It's emotional devastation. The constant anxiety, the humiliation of choosing between food and rent, the erosion of dignity. And when that dignity is gone, when the roof finally disappears, there's only one place left to turn: the shelter system. Shelters are supposed to be the last line of defense, a place of safety, a chance to get back on your feet. But for thousands of New Yorkers, the reality is very different. Most shelters are overcrowded, crammed with strangers, lacking privacy or security. Violence is common. Healthcare, especially mental health support, is scarce. Programs meant to help with jobs or reintegration are thin, if they exist at all. Instead of offering a pathway forward, shelters act like revolving doors. People cycle in, cycle out, and find themselves back on the streets. And it raises a burning question. If $3.2 billion can't even provide safe beds and dignity, what exactly are we paying for? Because while the government spins its wheels, others are quietly doing the work. In Manhattan's darkest corners, nonprofits are holding the line. The Coalition for the Homeless, the nation's oldest advocacy group, secured over 15,000 housing placements in just 1 year. The Bowery mission feeds 1,000 people every single day and offers beds for hundreds more, grounding recovery in the community. The DOE Fund placed 1,200 men into jobs in 2024 through their Ready, Willing, and Able program. Robin Hood, the city's largest poverty-fighting organization, funneled over $200 million into grants, targeting systemic inequities. Mobile health clinics, mentorship programs, and job training centers spring up across boroughs, not because the government leads, but because ordinary people refuse to abandon their neighbors. But here's the truth. Even their tireless efforts can't outrun the politics stacked against reform. Mayor Eric Adams promised to get stuff built. On paper, the plan was ambitious: more affordable housing, safe haven expansions, mental health services. But in reality, bureaucracy, zoning fights, and wealthy opposition have slowed progress to a crawl. Construction projects face endless delays. Safe haven expansions promise 4,000 new beds, but against a demand of 125,000 nightly, it's a fraction of what's needed. And as leaders argue over permits, lawsuits, and budgets, real people can't wait. Families tonight are sleeping in subway cars. Children tonight are struggling to do homework in overcrowded shelters. And every delay means more futures erased. While leaders debate, the next generation is already paying the price. By mid-2025, more than 36,000 children in New York City are homeless. That's 69% of the city's sheltered population. Entire schools now deal with absenteeism rates spiking 15% higher among homeless students. Education, the one path out of poverty, is breaking down before their eyes. Communities feel it too. Local businesses lose 20% of their revenue as foot traffic disappears. Entire neighborhoods unravel under the weight of instability. And yet, amid the despair, there are sparks of resilience. Youth mentorship programs have connected 1,500 at-risk teens with stable housing pathways. Green spaces and supportive housing pilots are proving mental health improves when communities rebuild together. Volunteer drives are up 30%, showing that ordinary people still care. But here's the truth. These sparks aren't enough. Not without scale. Not without systemic change. And that leaves us with the hardest question of all. What kind of Manhattan are we leaving behind? Homelessness isn't inevitable. It's not natural. It's not destiny. It's the product of choices, of policies designed to protect wealth while neglecting the vulnerable. The real test of a city isn't its skyline. It isn't the billions in its budget or the tourists on its streets. It's how it treats the people at its feet. New York City stands at a crossroads. Will it allow Manhattan to hollow out into ghost towns, fractured communities, and broken families? Or will it rebuild, not just towers, but humanity? Because if one of the richest cities on Earth can't protect its own, what hope does the rest of America have? The truth is simple. Hope isn't passive. It's forged in action, in compassion, in seeing every tent not as an eyesore, but as a call to rebuild with dignity. So I leave you with this. Imagine a Manhattan where no child sleeps in uncertainty, where workers can afford the city they sustain, and where division gives way to unity. The American dream was never meant to leave people behind. Maybe it's time to prove it.